Welcome back to another episode of the Giorgio Says podcast. And today's guest is David Yontef from Behind the Velvet Rope podcast. If you don't know who he is, you are definitely living under a rock. He is posting daily episodes. He knows all the housewives. He has even given his prediction as to what's going on with the New York City cast. And I don't think he's ever been wrong before, guys. So let's get into this episode. But before we do that, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future podcast episodes. And if you want to listen to this audio, you can do so by going to any platform that you get your podcasts from. Now let's get into the episode.
Welcome to the Giorgio Says podcast.
Hi. All right, we have David on. David, I've been dying to talk to you because I've been listening to your podcast. I actually love listening because you post so many episodes and they're just like, you just keep them coming. So it's like, I don't have to worry about missing anything because it's just like, there's always these gaps that get filled in, throughout the episodes. And I'm just like learning things that I didn't know from the past and then present and then talking ahead. So
I was going to, when we went to 5 days a week, at one point, it was like, this is temporary, people. And then here we are, like 2 years later, and it's not going to change. It's going to stay 5 days a week.
No, I love it. I love that format. I mean, as long as you can, continue doing, because I know it's a lot.
It's a lot of work, but I feel like the alternative is no better to me. There's so many people I want to talk to, and people reach out to me now. And so it's like, I'm not one to say no. So
that's so awesome.
It's good. It's good 5 days a week. It's like every day you need another show, right?
Yeah, no, I love that. It's like, because it's like fresh, that keeps the conversations going. And that's probably why it works so well too. Because it's like a nice formula you have going. So now people are like, no, I want to join the conversation,
And God forbid it's a holiday. And it's like, people are like, where's the new episode? It's like people now, like, God forbid I don't put out 5 shows a week. I'm like, it's a holiday. We're doing a repeat today. Like every show does a repeat. That's like normal. And oh my God, people are like, I need a new episode. I'm like, it's been one day.
God forbid there's like Christmas or something. Like,
exactly.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
Why didn't you record it earlier?
Exactly.
No, but it's super cool. So you're obviously watching what's going on currently with Salt Lake City, right? So what are your thoughts thus far?
I mean, well, okay, so Mary is not coming back, obviously. So, it's this like fine line between like, yes, if you don't go to the reunion, you get fired. But so technically Mary can go on the list of fired housewives, which is all of them except for maybe like 5. But she knew what she was doing. You know what I mean? It's not like, she didn't just not go to the reunion. She didn't go to the reunion and then she started tweeting about how awful reality TV is and how it's evil. So look, I really feel that Mary didn't go to the reunion, not because she was worried about, owning up to like these racist, quote unquote, alleged, like she said some things.
Yeah.
But I don't think she cares about that, really. I really think she didn't come to the reunion because there's stuff to hide in that church. That's what I think. And she saw what happened to Erica, and she saw what happened to Jen Shah. And I think Mary is just like I really don't think Mary knew what she was getting into when she joined the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Like, I don't think she understood like what Housewives really was and what happens. And like, it's not just what you decide to share with us, Mary, like everything will be uncovered. So I don't think she cares that, they were going to come for her and say like, you made a reference to like Jenny's eyes and you made a Mexican comment to like these. I don't think Mary cares. I think she's just like, I'm not racist. Shut the hell up.
Yeah.
I think she's realized like, oh, if this goes on season 3 and season 4, like my people are going to come knocking on my door. And I think she has a good thing with the church and they think she's God and she makes money. And like, I just think she's like, this is more important than whatever. I mean, look, you have the fame. If you want the fame, you don't ever need to be on TV again. You just need 2 seasons, right?
Totally. I mean, that's enough. I mean, it's a big enough platform that if you're on it for 2 seasons, you can garner enough of a following that you can continue on and not still be on the show, I feel like.
Totally.
So
and I think, yeah.
I think also recently her cousins come out and exposed a ton of things. And I think leading up to the season finale, there's probably some things that, from what I've read and heard, she's not pleased with, probably because they're going to kind of aim at the church stuff. And I mean, we'll have to keep watching, but it just seems like there's some sort of plot twist of some sort that I think she saw coming and was like, oh, I'm not doing this.
And like, right, you're talking about all like the sexual allegations that
Yeah.
was sleeping with Cam, and like also like, yeah.
And everyone was cool with this whole situation. It was just like a very strange dynamic, it sounded like. But I mean, we've heard other things, but it's just, I don't think she found the money worth going through all of that and potentially destroying her whole life around it.
And I think Mary's just used to like, I'm God and these people bow. And I'm not coming for her. It's just that's how it is in that church from what we've seen. And I think she was just like, oh, wait, you're going to all rake me over. Like, why would I show up at this thing?
Yeah.
And I'm so out. Like, I'm not interested in this.
Well, because she doesn't ever have to deal with anyone challenging her. So
totally.
For her to be with these ladies and then be on camera, and you have to do that bit too, you know? So people get to have an opinion, and she's just kind of like, oh, don't talk to me. You know what I mean? So she kind of has this like, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? And I think she figured it out really quick though, that it's going to snowball for her.
Totally. And Bravo is probably thrilled. They're probably like, okay, you were kind of a liability.
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't have to fire you for any other reason. And like, we have to change the show up. I mean, I don't think anyone would have really been let go otherwise. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know who it would have been. It wouldn't have been anyone else. Maybe they just would have come back with the same cast, but you can only do that for 2 seasons. So I think Bravo is like, great. Like, we're searching for a new housewife now, period, the end. And that will change the dynamic of the show. Like, I don't think they care at all. And the show will go on just fine without her. Like, she was a big part of the show. I mean, I loved her, but she was already the one who stuck out. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a true ensemble with her. And so like, I think I don't think anyone's going to be let go. They're not going to let go of Jenny. They're going to keep her. And just like, Jenny's grown on me actually over the season.
Same. In the beginning,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about her only because with that whole sister wife storyline, I didn't know too much about her yet. And I just didn't know if that was just something that she was trying to use. But then as it went on, I was like, oh, she's actually, the more I got to know her, I mean, I feel like they're giving her a nice, well-rounded edit. I mean, they're showing different facets of her personality, which I think has helped her grow on me a little bit more too. But
totally. And like, we've let other people slide by not having like a breakout first year. And here they are several seasons later. So it's like, she's fine. Like, I was just bored of her at first, but she's fine. Like, she'll be great next season. You know what I mean? I think after the reunion, like, I think she'll speak up at the reunion, and I think she'll be like, oh, okay, this is a housewife. I get it.
I think it's like a learning kind of thing for them too, when they're new, because they're figuring it out. And I think once they get comfortable on camera and the cameras just kind of fall back and you don't really pay attention to it, I think they can really start to like react and do it in a way that they feel authentically like present for these conversations. Because she really, like, especially at her faux lunch, I was really like, wow, she's just like, I'm not going to let this slide. You guys are all being fake. We've all said stuff, you know? So I was like, oh, okay, I kind of respect her because she's trying to be authentically honest, but she's not trying too hard either to try to like garner camera time just for the sake of it.
Totally. So I'm like, okay, I like her.
Yeah.
But yes, Mary is gone and she's not coming back, period. I mean,
it's a good thing long-term, I think, for the show though.
I think so. I mean, yeah, like, it's when you watch those housewives where you're like, this isn't okay. Like, this isn't fun anymore. Like, something's really off.
Mm-hmm.
Mary gave me those vibes.
Yeah, it was like something sinister she was like protecting, and she wasn't going to let anything expose that or whatever it is that they're doing. But I think so many people have come out, and I think she's realizing, oh, the show is throwing me under the bus because people are using it as a tool to come after me. And this is not good for business, you know? It's not
Totally.
good for God.
It's not good for business. And I think she's just like, let me just go back to the church and forget it that I ever existed. Like,
let me go back to my closet and just not be bothered.
I mean, yeah.
What are your thoughts on just the overall, like, because I feel like people are still slowly warming up to Salt Lake City because they're not sure what the dynamics are. What are your thoughts? Like, what do you think that is? What do you think the disconnect is for people? Because I feel like it's ramping up like nicely, in my opinion. But I feel like some people are hesitant to jump on board because they see maybe the snippets and they're just kind of like, this seems all over the place.
I just think like we are on a decline with Housewives. I mean, not me, not you, not the core people that are listening to, you know, my Behind the Velvet Rope podcast or this, but the ratings are just down for everything. And so I think like Salt Lake, when they added the franchise, I mean, I think it's a great franchise. I think it's like you keep changing up these casts of like old franchises and it's only so much you can do. And so to have like a new franchise, it's like a whole new show and we're so excited. Like, remember the days when we used to have a new show on Bravo all the time?
I mean, it was like every other week.
And I get it, it's cool. Like, we don't have anything new. I mean, I know we have Winter House and we have every incarnation of Below Deck, but like there's nothing really new. And so it's like, it was great. So I think it's a great franchise and I think it's so much more interesting than plenty of the other franchises that are on the air. I just think that like with the ratings down for all these other franchises, I just think people were like, well, I'm not invested. Like, there's no Vicky, there's no Tamara. Like, I don't know who these people are. I'm just not going to start. Like, I'm not even going to start something new. I just can't. Like, it's too much. That's really what I think it is. Because the ratings in Salt Lake were never blockbuster. They've gotten a little better this season, especially like with the Jen Shaw Van episode, but they're not like over 1 million. So I just think people were just like, I don't know who any of these people are. And like, why should I bring this into my life? I'm just not going to go there. That's really what I think it is. And I also think like, you know, you hear Salt Lake and you're like, why? Like, it's not New York. It's not Beverly Hills. You're just like, this sounds so weird. And yeah, people that watch it are like, holy shit, this is so good. But I just think people don't even get there. They're just not turning it on. I think for those two reasons.
Yeah, I can see that because I mean, also too, like even with current franchises, when there's like a Vicky that leaves, right? Those fans don't, it's like a relationship to them. They've invested this time and now she's not on it. I don't care about the show anymore because to me, she was the show. And that's why I think, honestly, why Vicky calls it her show. Because I mean, I know it's not her show, but in her mind, she was like the pioneer. You know what I mean? So I can't take that accolade away from her in spirit because it's kind of, I agree with that in some regard, but I understand that it's an ensemble cast and, you know, but I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to be invested in someone new because it's like a divorce or like someone leaving you.
I think that's what it is. I think they're just like, why should we start? You know, and then I think people that have are like, wow, this is so good. Like, I don't know anyone that doesn't like Salt Lake that watches it. It's a good addition. But I just think people are like, why?
Totally. They're just kind of like, why now too? Like, where did you guys, like, I think in spirit, the concept is interesting when you look at the lifestyle of what is going on there and what's the norm, if you will. So that piece has been interesting. And I think it's great that it kind of lets people in on that so they can kind of have more understanding. Because I think that's kind of part of the whole, I think it's also diverse too, because it creates like, it's not all just, there's different types of wealth, attachments, cultural, you know, so all that plays into it, obviously. But I think,
and I just like the setting. Like, we have Orange County, New York films in the summer. We have all, you know, Dallas is hot. I mean, Dallas is gone, but I love the snow. Like, I just love the actual background of like, this feels different because it's like winter. Like, it's awesome.
but like every episode. So it always feels like it's like, oh, it's like holiday or something because you guys are all like bundled up and you're always going somewhere nice and there's always snow. So yeah,
it's like something different. I don't know. I mean, I really like it, you know, I mean, I really, so far, I think it's better than a lot of the other franchises that are around.
Totally. I think it
Feels
has so
new.
much potential. And I think it'll be interesting because like I'm interested to see how this whole thing plays out between Lisa and Jen, because I don't know. I feel like Jen, she's reactive in this whole thing. And I just make it, I want to believe her. Like there was a couple episodes recently where I was like, oh man, I really am feeling for her. And you know what I mean? I caught myself and I was like, but what if this is just a put on and maybe she really thinks that she is innocent. That's what I started thinking. Like, what if she really does think in her mind that she didn't do anything?
I talk about this on my podcast all the time. Like, I do think that, look, I mean, you have to have somewhat of a narcissistic personality to be catch. I mean,
Totally.
I did a bonus Patreon episode way back about like I had a resident narcissist on and we went through like who's a narcissist, who isn't. Like I think Jen is right. Yeah, I mean, I think that she probably believes that she's really innocent. You know, her argument is just that I handed these leads over and I did this, but I didn't know what anybody was doing with them. Mind you, they've named her as like the number one top person in this whole thing. So I don't know, right? But I have moments where, yeah, I have moments where you believe her, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, specifically when she was with her mom, that moment was where I think I started to. I mean, I obviously felt for the mom in the situation too, because that's probably a lot to do and to share on camera, because I'm sure that's not super comfortable for people involved to discuss. But
And it's like you have to wonder, like, in a way, I don't know, like, do you stay on the show? Like, it's both ways. It's like, well, now you really need the money. So your legal bills. So why not stay on the show? Like, if you're going to go away anyway. And then part of me is like, do you really like, I'm not sure Jen understands what's really at stake here. Like, this is not like Teresa Giudice, 9 months in a camp. Like, this is a long time that you could be gone. And I don't know, I mean, I'm a lawyer, like I don't practice anymore, but I mean, the feds do not just decide to come to your house unless there's like there's evidence. They don't just, this isn't like I'm mad at my neighbor and I'm going to sue you. Like, so this isn't just going to go away.
It's and they were investigating her probably for a while, I'm sure, before they just decided to pop up at Beauty Lab. It wasn't like a oops.
Totally. And it really has nothing to do with her going on the show. Like, this was in motion. Like, they were looking into her for a long time. I mean, it's just weird. Like, now it's like when everyone underneath you or around you is now pleading guilty and you are holding on to this, like, I'm not guilty. It's like at some point, someone's going to say, like, you have two choices. Like, you're either sticking with that and you're going away for this many years, or you're changing your plea. So I just think it's going to be interesting. I don't know. There's something so much more inherently, there's just something inherently unlikable about Jen Shah.
She just doesn't seem like she really has the best interest for people in her life. It's more
and no
like
no depth at all.
It's all like trauma that has been shoved in boxes and covered and masked with things, and this high lifestyle that she's been maintaining. And yeah, I understand she feels the need to have to support her family from her culture. I understand that that's something that weighs on her as the oldest, but there's no reason outside of that for her to garner any other benefit but to keep filling the boxes and pushing all the stuff back, because that's ultimately why she's in this situation.
And like, I'm sure you've had friends like this. Like, I mean, how exhausting is it to have a friend that is just so drama? Like, I'm really shockingly, people might be shocked to find, but I'm like low drama in my personal life. Like, I work a million hours. And so like when I'm not working, it's just like, I don't care. We can go to here. You can be 20 minutes. Like, I don't care. It's fine. Like, everyone just relax. I'm not working right now on it's like everything is fine. So I mean, imagine having a friend like Jen. This isn't just for cameras. Like imagine being her like off-air friend. I'm sure she was like I mean, we go from like 0 to 100 within a matter of a minute. It's exhausting. And it's like, calm down. And that's like a narcissistic personality of like, everything is so drama and about you. And we're like, just chill, man. I don't know.
I did have a friend that had that type of personality. We were friends for 6 years, and every time I felt like I turned around, something else had happened to her. And it was always relationship drama and stuff like that. So that was
I know the type. It's like,
and it would be 7-hour phone conversations, or quick dinners were 6-hour dinners, and people are telling us to leave, and then we're still like she wouldn't. It's overly like, and did not once ever be like, so how are you, or what's going? I could be on fire, and she'd be like, but anyways. So this person just screwed me over. Shocking, and it's like.
I say that all the time. Like, people are like, what do you do when you hang out with all these housewives that you're friends with? And I'm like, well, we talk about housewives, but I did have this thing one weekend where I was like, I'm going to play a game in my head of, is this housewife going to ask me one question about myself? Just one, because we're together now for 48 hours. Like, let's just start. And I'm like, so there is this narcissistic, and then people are like, well, why? I mean, okay, like it's work related too. So like, that's why I'm there. But yeah, it's that like, wait, have you asked me anything about like, what? Like,
do you even know my name?
Right. Like at least
yeah.
something. You should ask me some question about how I'm doing in the world as a human being. But so I just don't like that type of drama around me. So like, imagine it's so exhausting to be friends with Jen, I would imagine.
Well, that's why I think people didn't. I mean, listen, she's expecting a lot from people, and she's being aggressive about it. It's like she's demanding it. And that's what's weird to me. It's like, if you have to demand it, you're being too much, or you're being too pushy about it, because you're making clearly Lisa. I mean, I don't know. I think Lisa doesn't want to have to deal with it, because I think she would have to deal with it probably more than what we probably see, because I think the phone calls, the text messaging, I can imagine the texts that Jen probably writes are probably, lengthy and, are meaty, if you will. So.
No, and also like, it's the same thing with Erica Jane. Like, I don't understand. Like, look, I am a very loyal friend. Like, I'm a Gemini, but so, I mean, I would stand by you if you were my friend, regardless of what you did, 100%. But I mean, I would have questions. Like, I just want to know, did you do it or not, honey? Like, I'm not going to abandon you. I just need some facts. So I don't know why. It's the same thing with Erica. It's so shocking when you just want some information about this thing that is unfolding that everyone is talking about. Like, I mean, it's okay. Like, we don't have to do it on camera, but I would want facts if a friend of mine came to me and is like, I might go away for, I mean, I've known people that have gone to jail. I mean, but I would have some questions. I mean, I would stand by you, but I would just have questions. So I don't know why it's so like World War III with Erica and Jen when someone's like, well, did you do it or not?
Well, because it's like, to them, they're like, how dare you ask me anything about it at all? Like, and then that's just not fair, in my opinion, because it's like, well, and just with Erica, just recently, she just launched her Pretty Mess hair.
She did.
And, I don't really, I kind of got drained covering what was going on with her, but it was the majority of the season, and every day there was something going on with her. So it was, how could you not talk about it? But now I see, at first when I saw that she was launching it, I was like, okay, this is a good narrative for you, because I know you're using this as a storyline for the show. You're probably going to show us how you're ramping it up. But then when I digged around on her website, I was like, really? Just from the images, the pricing, the images.
It's not cheap. It's like, first of all, sweetie, not everyone lives in Beverly Hills. Second of all, do you have this money? Like, if you were a consumer of this product anymore to buy this, I too didn't, because like, I mean, that's the thing. So like my show is like a 5 day a week interview show, and it's not, so I don't really cover what's going on, because it's like, I mean, I could have on, an Orange County housewife in the middle of the, so I really avoided all the Erica drama. But then, I mean, I'm friends with Catherine Edwards from Beverly Hills season 6, everyone. She was there.
I love when you have her on, by the way, because
Everybody,
I loved her so much.
she's literally, I can tell you, possibly everyone's favorite guest ever. Literally.
I just loved her on the show. Like, I wanted to like meet her just from her being on that season. I just loved her personality. I loved that she didn't care to play the game. She was just like a spitfire when I don't know, but she's great on you when she comes on your show.
And that's the thing, like so she's like a regular, like we covered. So then she was like, okay, I'll come on to cover the Beverly Hills reunion with you. And I'm like, should we do one or should we do it every week? And she's like, every week. And then it turned into just 3-hour chats. So it literally, we did 12 episodes on like three hours on each of the Beverly Hills reunions. And then it was like so popular. Then she like, now I'm like, Catherine's just a regular on my show, which everyone's like, why doesn't she, she needs to be your permanent co-host. A, there ain't never going to be a permanent co-host on Behind the Velvet Rope, people. Let me just tell you that. B, she doesn't, people are like, are you paying her? I'm like, first of all, mind your own fucking business. And she doesn't want to. It's just what she wants. Like Catherine does not want to, like, she drops in for a 3-hour chat and then goes about her life. I then sit there for 7 hours and have to clean up the episode and get it out. So like this is just what she wants. She does not want to be permanent. Like she's in Italy now. She wants to come back when she wants to come back. And look, I'm not hurting for like content. Like, where are you? But she'll be back soon. Like she's watching Salt Lake, but people love. So then when Catherine was coming on, then I'm like, okay, I give up. Like I'm going down the Erica rabbit hole. And then we just talked about Erica nonstop for like 5 weeks. And then I was like, God, I'm exhausted of this now. I can't imagine people that have been covering this for the whole series. I do think Erica's going to get a good edit next season. I do. We'll talk about like when things happen, they'll bring it up, but it's real. Look, we can't have a whole season of this and people are going to go crazy in the comments, blah, blah, blah. What happened to this real life victims? But the train is going to move. And I mean, they're not firing Erica. So they'll bring it up, but she's going to get a good edit. She is.
Well, it would be it would backfire if they went on another season. Like that would be too much. People would be like, why don't you just give her her own spinoff until she figures this out then, and continue to cover it separately. But, I think, I don't know. I'm excited that they did bring on a new one. I know there's a ton of them filming at the moment with Beverly Hills right now, but I think that it'll be interesting. I think she'll definitely be plot B. Like, I don't think it'll be completely in the background, but I do think they'll play up more of how she's moving on positively more. And it won't be so much of the attacking dinners of like.
I think so too. Like we'll have Dorit's home invasion. We'll have Lois passing away. I assume we'll have, Delilah breaking up with Eyal, which just happened. So it's like Kyle's now going back to Halloween. So it's like, I think we're going to have just like a really well-rounded, I mean, they're really doing it this way everywhere now. We're like all these, like Will Smith's ex-wife is filming and like, you just don't know, like Tracy Lynn Johnson just got like demoted to a friend, like on New Jersey. So it's like, this is the new thing where it's like film and we'll figure it out, like where you deserve to be, whether you're a friend. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Really?
I think so. I mean, I would think that's the way you should do it. Just how would you know up front how deserving that person is? I think everyone should have to earn the diamond or the orange or the peach, you know what I mean? Or the apple.
Right? Like, Bershawn could have been a housewife and they decided to make her a friend. Like, it's just, and I think it's like, you look at the footage when it's over and that's how you craft. Like, I don't really think they know when they're filming, like, what's the storyline here, like, and then, I mean, the basic storylines, but the little nuances, like, and then that's produced, like this whole thing on Orange County where like Gina's now the comic relief. Like, I think they went through the footage and they're like, okay, we get it. And we're going to edit like, Gina and Heather, and it works. I'm not, but I think they figure it out. Like when you just look at all that footage and then you're just like, this person's a friend, or the opposite, like with Sutton, where they're like, they gave her the diamond last season where she wasn't supposed to have it, where they're like, she's kind of like the breakout of the whole season, you know?
Totally, yeah. I mean, well, speaking of Orange County, what are your thoughts on this whole Noella versus Heather situation, infomercial gate?
You know, well, first of all, it's weird because I just re-released an episode I had with Tamara, and I have some Orange County Housewives coming up this season. So it's weird. Like, that's an example where the ratings started out not as great as last season, but they've fallen now. This is like, they're down to like, I don't know why we had World War III when like the New York ratings were in the 600s and everything else is the same. Like this is now in the 700s. Vanderpump Rules. I mean, did anyone even watch? I mean, I did for work to cover it, but like, so it's like, I don't know why people have mixed feelings about Orange County this season. Like, I do think I've said this on my show so many times. I think last season of Orange County was the worst season of any Housewives ever in the history of Housewives. That's just me personally. I personally, and maybe I'm not, maybe I'm biased because I live in New York and I know Ebony. And so like, for me, like New York wasn't as horrible as the world cried out. Like, I don't understand why everyone hated New York. So, I mean, I guess I could understand it, but I didn't really hate it. I hated last season of Orange County. So for me, I think this season of Orange County is good, but not everyone does. Lots of the ratings have slipped and a lot of people hate Heather.
I think people are also mad because, like, I get it. People don't think that Noella is good for this show.
Why don't they? Because I have my own theories.
I think because they feel like it's almost like she's been preparing for this. Like, it's been an exam for her. She's watched every episode. She read up on everybody. She like read it. I just felt like she's one of those people that was super strategic about how she entered this show. And she was willing to expose everything to secure her,
I mean, does that sound familiar of someone else from Orange County, perhaps from the past?
I was totally Bronwyn vibes.
Yeah. And that's my thing is like, she was, let's not forget her best friend, BFF, was Bronwyn. And Bronwyn got her ass kicked out and Noella got hired. So that's the end of their friendship. But I personally can't watch the first one or two. And it's funny, I have an Orange County housewife from the past that I just sat down with, who's coming up. And she said this on my show. We just recorded it. She's like, the first episode or two, I love Noella. And I'm like, I get it. Me too. I thought she was great. And now it's like, I can't watch her without thinking Bronwyn, period. The end. Knowing they were friends. I mean, they also mentioned on the damn show. It's like, so I watch her and I'm like, none of us believe the 17 things that happened to Bronwyn. And then Bronwyn, like, she's one of those examples to me where it was like, this doesn't feel comfortable now. Like, you have real things that you shouldn't be on TV. This is a liability. I mean, I have the same thing with Sonia too, which I don't think I'm 98% sure Sonia's not coming back to New York, which is a whole nother thing we could talk about. But I really, look, sometimes I'm wrong, but I'm not so sure.
Not really, David.
I don't think.
Not really.
Thank you. So thank you very much. I watch Noella and I can't get, for those reasons you said, and I can't get Bronwyn out of my head. And I'm like, this just seems like you are so acting and not okay. And just how it is that you are calling someone else thirsty is beyond me. Like, do you need a mirror?
That's what was mind-blowing. It's her use of words and the way that she just, like, I will say this. I'm not Heather's biggest fan, okay? But I understand the assignment. I understand why she's back. I also understand why Heather decided to come back in this time. They want to push their products. They want to turn their business into like a, Dubrow QVC Evine, factory, if you will. That I don't have a problem with.
Because they don't have enough money and they need some more money.
Correct. That's
and I'm not knocking Heather. It's just like, I get it. Listen.
She's got to sell that house somehow.
I would keep
no way they're going to keep that house forever.
they're going to want a ton of money. But no, I mean, I get it too. And like she said, like her kids are older.
Mm-hmm. She's pushing her daughter's book.
Listen, there's nobody they could have brought back from the OC where they would have that type of entrance. Like it really, she was the natural one to bring back. Like I get it. You know, I get it. I mean, but that's my thing with Noella. It's like, I think that she thinks like, you know, okay, so wait, let me go down the list. Like if I'm going to have an issue with anyone, well, it's got to be the top dog because that's how I'm going to be relevant. Like I just think even that's, you know what I mean? Like I think it's calculated. Like, okay, I'm going to have an issue. I mean, who cares if I have an issue with Jennifer? Like she's new too. It's like, I'm going to have an issue with Heather. That's how I'm, you know?
But that's my point. She came into the show having a problem with Heather. And she was going to find any way to have that interaction where it was like, I'm going to go head to head with her because then I'll get the most camera time. I'll make sure that the producers like me, which, I mean, to be honest, I don't believe everything on Heather's end isn't like, she isn't trying to screw with Noella either with like production and, you know, how she maneuvers. She's smart. She knows how to maneuver this. But it seems like Noella is just coming off like she over rehearsed it and didn't really relax and just go into it and live her experience out. Like I would just much rather us try to get to the bottom of what's going on with Noella and her husband leaving. And I know we're talking about it, but she's so, in my opinion, erratic around how she's kind of communicating it. And it's coming off in an odd way. Like, I think she like, when she randomly said to Gina, like, I masturbated this morning. And it's just kind of like, why did you say that? Like that had nothing to do with, you know what I mean?
I thought the same thing. And it's not just because I'm a gay man and I'm like, I don't need to hear this. It's not that. Yeah. It was like, this is like, why? Right. Like you're just trying to be controversial now.
So that's a very Bronwyn-esque thing that kind of triggered me. And I was like, that's just, I don't think that's necessary. And I don't know why that's relevant to what you guys are talking about, but okay. Because Gina even was just kind of like, oh yeah, good for you.
Totally. And the thing is like, so Jennifer's not the most like, look, you want like Bravo has the ability to just let people hang in there. Like they reward like B-level players that are authentic, right? Like Gina and Emily. I mean, if you told me they'd be here and four seasons later, I would have told you were insane. But they're the new Vicky and Tamra. It's like as a duo, like they're not going to get rid of them. Like it just like each of them needs the other one. Gina, by the way, to me is the absolute breakout star of the whole season. We have a breakout star here. As far as I'm concerned, it's Gina Kirschenheiter. I'm obsessed. Oh, yeah,
she's totally like,
I'm like, you're so funny. Like, this is hilarious. And like, so it's like, they're not maybe the most interesting at the beginning, but we've now gotten to know them. If you think about it, Tamra, like it took us a while to get to know Tamra and Shannon. So like, there is this like Dorinda broke out in the first season, Erica, like you don't need to. So like Jennifer is, you know, maybe a little more boring, but she has potential. Like if they stick with her, we're going to get to know Jennifer. And I think that has more potential than like Noella, who is like, you seem like just a freak. Like you're all over the place.
Well, she just is very, it's one thing to be transparent and authentic if that's what you're really like in real life. I just don't think that that's how you're walking around, you know, Newport Beach, just going to pick up coffee and be like, oh, thanks. I masturbated this morning. It was great. And then walk out. I mean, you're just kind of like.
And showing up in this whole like Pocahontas costume. It's like, it's not bad, but is this like, we're at a children's book party, like a young adult book party. Like this, I don't, what, like why this outfit tonight? I don't understand.
It's very like, yeah, it was so misplaced because it wasn't the crowd for it either. It was like, it wasn't like one of them released a book or something that I would have gotten over, but it was just like, why are you showing up to this teenage girl's book release party dressed like that?
It's just like the best advice to give. I would give someone who's like first year is like, just A, be yourself and B, authentically be in it. So forget what you've read about Heather and Shannon, like be in it. So if you think you're going to hate Heather and you love her, then love her. Like that's the best advice. It's like go in it and like just forget what you've watched and what just experience the person. And maybe you'll be surprised at who you get along with and who you don't. That's my best advice. And just if you think you're being boring, I mean, listen, Emily Simpson brings out a sandwich in a fucking sauna and now it's a thing. Like that's a real, like, if Noella did that, we would be like, this is staged, but it's not staged. Emily is like, oh, I'm eating a sandwich. And it's so authentic.
Yeah. And she was seriously hungry.
Now I'm like obsessed with you.
I believe her. But I loved that moment because she was like, I don't care. But it was authentic to her because, like, again, to your point, like they're great together. And I do like how Gina and Heather are like, even though I'm not Heather's biggest fan, I do appreciate the friendship that's, blossoming between the two. And I do see the reason why. They're both New York transplants. I could see that. I mean, anybody can connect on that level. So,
and like Gina's like, look, I'm not Heather. I'd like to be Heather when I grow up, or I'd like to be adopted by her. And Heather has shitloads of money and I don't. It's like, it's authentic. She's like, I don't need to compete with that. I'm just like in awe of this, which is it's funny.
She's fine living in her own way, but she can appreciate and kind of point that out. And I think that kind of makes it fun too. What are your thoughts on New York just in general? With what do you want to see, or what would you like to see happen with the cast or how they come back?
Well, I do think, I made a statement, like I stand by this, that like I made statements like I wasn't so sure if New York was coming back because I mean, Orange County was off the air and we fixed it. It took a long time and we revamped the whole show, and then it comes back to like not great ratings. So it's like at some point somebody is going to say at a very high level of NBC, like we have to rethink this whole thing and like just we're moving on. I mean, Housewives is going to end one day. I hate to break it to everyone.
I know.
It's how the world.
I mean, yeah, everything comes to an end.
So, but I do listen. I know many people that have been contacted that have spoken to production and that are in the mix step one. Now that was way back in October, November. There's nothing going on since, but I do think New York will be back. I do, because I wasn't sure of that before. And I personally, I've said this before too, I think personally, Leah, there is a 0% chance we'll be back. 0. I'm going to stand by that. And again, you don't think I'm ever wrong. Sometimes I'm wrong.
No, I know. So you heard it here first then.
This is just my opinion. I think Ebony will not be back. She's a friend of mine, but I just don't think she'll be back. I do not think Sonia will be back. And I think Ramona and Luann de Lesseps will be back. That is it from last season, those two. That's what I'm saying.
And you're sticking to it.
Prove me wrong. I'm sticking to it. Ramona, Singer, and Luann will be back, and nobody else. And they will be hiring 5 other people. They will never have 5 housewives again on New York City. They are going to go for 7 people. And I do think, yeah, sure. Everyone I know happens to be that Upper East Side white and truly have a connection to Ramona or Luann. Not both, but like a real friendship. I think they're going to take one of those types. And then there's 4 spots left. I think at least 3, maybe 4 of those will be like completely diverse, but at least 3. And I don't mean like our token, like here's our Black house. I mean, like we are like, this is New York. Like we have Indian Americans, Asian, like it's going to be like Salt Lake, diverse. And I think that New York, that they get it. And I really think they're going to try to make New York. And I also agree with, this is what I want to see, like Beverly Hills. I personally don't think we've ever had real money on New York other than Tinsley and now Bethany. That's it. I'm just those 2. I don't mean like, yes, Ramona has a nice Hamptons house. She can sell it. That's like maybe $8 million. Fine. That's a lot of money. I get it. But I mean like real money, like Adrienne Maloof, Kathy Hilton, Lisa Vanderpump,
generational
like
wealth,
where you can just walk in and be like, I want to get this. And it's like $25,000 and walk out. Like, I think they're going to try to make it real money. And If they don't, I think they should. I think that's what people want to see.
But see, I think, do you find that it's challenging when you want to take it to that level, because typically those people are more private, right? So the people that are really super, super wealthy would never necessarily expose their life
Yes.
to us necessarily.
Yes. I think that's the whole challenge, that you're going to have to find very wealthy women that are not in happy marriages and are bored, or that are just fame whores and just have that, like, I have everything in the world. I should just look. I've said this before. I think if you ask 10 people that don't have money, what do you want, fame or money? You can only choose one. I think 9 out of 10 would choose, maybe 9.9 out of 10 would choose money if you don't have money. And then I think you get all these people with money that have like everything and no problems in the world. And there's plenty of bored people in that category that have everything. And like, you can't buy fame. I mean, you could buy your way into the Academy Awards. You could buy your way into these things and be around these people, but you can't buy fame. You can try, but like real fame. So I think you're just good. I do think it's challenging. I do. Because, and also the thing about New York is a lot of it's finance money and hedge fund money. And like, those people can't, like, they will not be on TV, the men, like, and a lot of their companies wouldn't allow it. So no one, I mean, it's like the Sutton thing, season 1, you're not getting hired if your family can't film. So that's what it's like. Well, you have a husband worth, like $400 million who's like, no. And no, sweetie, you're not allowed. Yes, I'm setting the women's movement back, but so it is challenging. But I think if you really, and that's why I think like New York is going to keep going. I do think that they're going to start filming in New York like around September. I think it's going to normal time they start to film. So now we're in January, but I think that they will search and search until they find like the right people. So I think you can find it, but I do think it's challenging in New York. But like, you think about it, there's so much, we have art money here. And I personally think they should find one person out of all of that to be like the Lisa Rinna, the Denise Richards. I mean, we have lots of actresses here that, you know, could help, look what it did for Rinna's career. I mean, she had a great career before, but this certainly didn't hurt. So I think if you're the right person and you're like on that B list where you had a great career and this could help.
No, I agree. And I think it's good that they're taking the time to actually look at it and not rush it through with casting like they do sometimes, because they just want to fill the spot. So they just bring a bunch of people to come and test them out. But I think with New York, it's such it's an important franchise. At least I think so. I've watched it from the beginning, like I have with all the other ones. So, it holds a sweet spot in my heart because I lived in New York for 4 years. And so it's just like watching it, living there was a whole different experience and love for the show. So that's why I'm like, please just make it good and come back, please. Don't
Where did you live in New York?
When I first moved there, we lived in Hell's Kitchen. And then we moved to 110th and like 5th. So like we're literally across the street from Central Park. So it was like awesome.
I want my number one choice for New York of not like there's choices, but like, okay, like Vanessa Williams is not doing it. No, but someone who could, I would love it. Someone who could be asked and who I think would do it. Get Kimora Lee Simmons.
She's dying to go back to TV, I think.
She would do it, and she would be crazy, insane, and would do it and it would be great. Imagine her with like Ramona and Luann. It would be so good. Like, someone call the woman, just call her.
I couldn't see her turning something like that down, only because I watched her reality show and I thought she was hilarious in a hoot on that. So I'm like, no, she's perfect for she would be so good on there.
She would be so good.
So
she really would be.
What did you think about did you watch the Project Runway episode with the Housewives?
I did.
What did you think about Leah being there as the other housewife that they chose.
I don't think that symbolizes anything, if that's what you mean. Like,
okay, that's what I was kind of getting at, because I was like, wait a minute, are we trying to get like a hint out with Leah doing this appearance? Like she's still gonna be on the show, or is just like a filler because no one else was available?
Because like, yeah, like, okay, who else would it? I mean, you actually could have had Ebony, but then I mean, it's the same thing. I don't think Ebony's coming back. So what's the difference? And I mean, you could have had Ramona. It would have been great. But look at like Girls Trip and like Cynthia Bailey. I mean, that was the season of everyone who was actually still on the show. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that means anything at all.
Okay, that's interesting.
I don't. I think people are literally on the edge of their seats talking and hypothesizing, like, is Luann, Ramona, or Sonia coming back? Who's really debating, like, up at night talking about Leah coming back, right?
No one.
It's 2 seasons. Nobody is invested in her life. And like, you're just associated with this off season. Like you have a black mark next to your name, like a red X of like, this was the bad season of RHONY and you were there. So I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying, like, you're swept up in that, like, kind of like Bronwyn, like Heather's coming back. We have to get rid of Kelly. Who else are we going to get rid of? Like, it's just no one's invested in you after 2 years. I mean, also a lot of people didn't like her. A lot of people don't like Leah, and not that that's why, but like, no one's invested. People want to know. There will be people will be thrilled or pissed off when the decision is announced regarding Sonia, Luann, and Ramona. That's it. No one is going to argue and go to the stake for Leah at this point on RHONY. Nobody cares.
I think most people only care about the original 3 OGs because they know the rest can be replaced.
Totally. And that's the thing. I just think there's no real connection. She's gone. Leah's gone. Even if they brought back Tinsley, and by the way, I think nobody from the past is coming back. So, but if anyone did come back, the only 2 I think they would even consider that are like on brand for the show now, this next season, are like Tinsley. And I think they would take Bethany if she would take the right amount of money, but it's not going to be no $5 million. But I don't think Bethany's coming back. And I don't think Tinsley's not even in New York either. She's in West Palm with her mom. So I don't think anyone's coming back from the past. The only person I really think is on brand to come back at this point is Tinsley. I really do. Love Dorinda. I just don't think it's like the direction the show is going. It's going to feel, I think maybe if anyone, it would be Dorinda. But that's it.
Her, though.
Nobody else. Dorinda was a great housewife.
I really enjoyed her.
So but like, listen, maybe, but I don't think so.
That the next Girls Trip, the one with Dorinda on it, do you think that'll maybe line her up? Not obviously for maybe this next season, but do you think that may line her up to come back?
I think it depends. I think it depends how it goes. Like, I think she has potential to come back. I don't think it's like I can tell you there's 0% chance like Jill Zarin will ever come back. That's never happening. So like, I mean, it's for so many reasons, but like, yeah, like Dorinda's like at least in the game. I think the same thing, like Vicky Gunvalson, it's never happening. Tamra, I think she's in the game. I don't think Dorinda's coming back or Tamra, but I think it's possible. Like, it makes sense.
I could see it happening, maybe not right now, but I could see it being down the road, maybe by chance, if it's like the right time or the right moment or something's going on that needs the shift to happen.
I just think like they need to have at least 2 people from New York cast, so it feels like New York. It can't be a whole new cast. And I think 2 is enough. Like 2, I think 3, it would be too overpowering. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's going to be just like the OC trailers and completely rebranded. And like, this is a whole new New York, and you'll see Luann and Ramona. So you'll feel like it's still New York Housewives, but I think it's going to be completely feel different. And I just think like, if you brought Dorinda back now, it would feel too much like the old New York. which people want, but I think the longevity, that's not where they want to go.
Well, and also they probably want to really make it diverse. To your earlier point, they probably want to make sure that they hit the nail on the head with all of the rest of it, because they want to make sure that it has like rich, depthful storylines, not just a bunch of, I don't know. I feel like New York is one of those shows where they just kind of let them run the course, and then they just get to the editing board and they're like, oh, okay, I see what we can do here. Totally. Like, I don't feel like they guide them through their experience. I kind of feel like they let them kind of
totally
go off and do their own thing. And then they just are like, let's hope for the best.
Totally. But I do think it's going to come back. But I mean, it's not, there's nobody knows. And the girls don't know as of this minute when we're speaking, nobody knows, like for real.
And I'm sure Sonia will be bombarded with questions this evening about it. Bombarded.
But that's really what I think is happening. And I am going to stick to it. Sonia is not coming back. I'm sticking to that for a lot of reasons.
I'm going to miss her though. I love me some Sonia.
Listen, she will go down as a classic New York housewife, right? Like
absolutely.
She's, when you think of New York, you think of a lot of things, but I mean the housewives, but Sonia's up there, right?
Oh no, she's definitely like in the Housewives Hall of Fame. If we're gonna like have
she gave so much. She gave so much.
I mean, she gave a lot of moments for this franchise that are so memorable that like the memes alone, it's just like.
The real question is, are you going to this event that Sonia is going to be at tonight?
Absolutely not, because where it's at is where I don't know, it's just going to be.
She's just like making an appearance, right? She probably got $5,000 to show up. But like, what is it? Like, just like,
she's going to be at a table and she's just going to be like, in a corner, and everyone's going to be like pretending to not be wanting to go in her area. And it's just going to be annoying. So I'm too old for that crowd.
Beyond annoying. I've been there, done that so many times. It's like, so not interested.
No, I don't have the patience for it. And also, I mean, the good thing is that DC just implemented, you have to have proof of vaccination to get in. So at least, to that extent, it's not the worst. But
is it at like a gay club or just like a restaurant?
It's at it's just at a bar lounge type place. And I think they're just a promoter's making a party there tonight and must have paid her an appearance fee to come. Because I think she came a year ago. And everyone, I mean, she kills it here, apparently. They love her.
And did she reach out to any of our Potomac ladies who were in DC yesterday? Did you see that? Like Giselle, Karen, Robin.
I saw them all hanging out, but I didn't see if they were like.
I think it was in DC. I'm pretty sure.
I think they were shopping in Olive or something.
Yes.
Because I saw I saw Ashley posted a TikTok because Karen was in it with her and stuff like that. But what else do you have coming up? Anything interesting or fun?
Who do I have coming up on my show? I mean, I just had Leah Black on from Miami.
Okay.
Old school Miami.
Yes, I saw that, and I was like,
I don't know if you watched Miami back in the day.
Oh, of course I did.
Who doesn't love Leah Black? I mean, as a person, like I've gotten close to Leah, and she's like, I love her. Really,
I don't understand I never understood the issue with why people didn't like her, why she wouldn't have been. I mean, I get she probably didn't want to come back, but I also feel like, why didn't you bring her? She is Miami to me too, I mean,
I asked her on air, like, we got to clarify this, honey. Like, were you asked and you said no? Or category B, were you not asked? And I'm like, don't give me, you don't need to explain. It's like,
yeah,
A or B. Like, that's all I want. You know how my interviews are. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want any other talking after it. And she gave an answer. And people seem satisfied with it, but I need to go back and listen. I'm not sure she really gave an answer. And like, I've become close with Leah in real life. And Leah's really, honestly and truly, as a person, has like a very generous heart. Like, she got me Joe Francis, who was on this week from Girls Gone Wild, who dated Paris Hilton and Kourtney Kardashian. Like, he was on my show.
By the way,
you have to watch it.
I am a Paris stan. So
100.
I've been there from day one. I feel like she's my older sister in my head.
Paris
We
is
share a
epic.
birthday, and I'm like watching Paris in Love right now, and so happy that she's back in this wheelhouse, you know, TV and whatnot. So,
well, if you Google my last name and Joe Francis in Paris, there's a lot of press that has come up because he said she's the craziest girl he ever dated. And he gives like a lot of examples. And then he goes on to call Kathy Hilton all sorts of things. I didn't say it, but if you Google it and listen,
well, now I'm going to go listen after we jump off of here, David, because now I'm like,
Joe is like, what do you want to talk about? And like, I don't want to talk. He's been in like a lot of lawsuits. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to talk about any of that. I want to talk about dating Paris and the fact that Kathy was almost your mother-in-law. And then I want to talk about Courtney and dating her and the fact that Chris was almost your mother-in-law. He's like, that's what you want to talk about? I'm like, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. And he was like, you can ask me whatever. I was like, that's great. And I mean, I think it's interesting. Like, I love an entrepreneur story. Like Girls Gone Wild is so huge.
It was a very innovative thing for that time period.
And he had a Guys Gone Wild too, which I found out during this interview, which I didn't really know.
I didn't know that.
Well, he's like, I'm like, I like need to go, Joe. I have to go Google this and figure out what this is all about. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So, well,
but so like Leah's very generous in that sense of like, oh, you want this person on? I'm really good friends with them. Let me go. I mean, I'm like, is Leah Black my new booker? Like, did I hire you overnight? She's just very, that's how she is. She like is like, let me help you. So, I mean, now I know Joe really well.
You can sense that. Like, even when she was on the show, I felt that, you know, she had that motherly instinct. Like, she wants to help people. She sees something that could be done better. She just wants to, I appreciate that about her.
I mean, I also started out the year with Kelly Dodd and Rick Leventhal. So talk about, I mean, I did it on purpose. Like, let's just start the year with a bang. As far as
the reason why I started watching their stuff on YouTube, by the way, not because I'm a fan of it. I just was so intrigued by the interview. So awesome interview, by the way, because I was like, they don't really do a lot of interviews.
They don't. They feel like they have a podcast now and just people can pay and listen to theirs. But it was through a mutual connect. I've tried to get Kelly and Rick forever. And same thing. It was a mutual housewife who was like, you need to do David's show. He's like the real deal. And so like within 2 seconds, Kelly got back to me. It was like, okay, I'm going to do it now. And I was like, can you bring Rick? Like, I mean, I would be fine with just Kelly, but I'm like, I love a joint interview. I just love it. So it's like,
I have a list of people that I'm trying to email today that I want to set up interviews with.
Like, who's on your list?
So Lisa Barlow is the first person that I've made contact with. So I'm trying to nail that down, if you will. I want Marisol. I definitely want to talk to Adriana from Miami.
I would think, I mean, I've had Adriana on my show. I would think Marisol, I mean, talk about someone who needs a drink. I think she would do it. I mean,
you think she would or wouldn't?
I think she would.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm calling Marisol thirsty. So I'm not insulting you. I'm just saying, I think she would, like, I don't see why she would say no.
It would be an easy yes.
I would think.
I mean, Lisa was very sweet about it. She was very like, oh, cool. Yeah, totally. So, because I really enjoy Lisa. So I'm just trying to go through a list of people that I've always wanted to have like a conversation with. So that's
I've loved having Lisa on my show, and I love Lisa.
No, she from what I've seen so far and just her engagement, it's just she seems like authentically sweet. So that's exciting. But so first of all, thank you so much for coming on my podcast, because I'm still a baby in this world and you're way busier than I am. So the fact that you're taking time out to come on mine I'm very grateful. So thank you.
Stick with it. Stick with it.
I will. And I appreciate that, because I started my TikTok in July and then it just started blowing up, and then I turned it into this thing. And so now I'm in the right time. I feel like the timing was perfect for me because I have a full-time job, but I work from home, and
most people have full-time jobs.
Totally. So it's
somehow
just like,
made this my
you're
full
just
time.
shifting where you can. And I take every minute, and I'm an early bird. I'm a morning person anyway. So it works perfectly for me because I get up super early. I can start to like.
Me too. There's nothing better than being a morning person. I absolutely love it. I've already been, it's like we started at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. I was up, I went to the gym. I love a morning. I love
get
a morning.
upset when there's like a day that if I do sleep until like 7 or 7:30.
Same here. Same here.
I just missed a big part of my day.
7:30 is awful, and 7 a.m. is pretty bad as well. And it's the same thing. Like when people are like texting me at 11 p.m. and I'm just like MIA, then I start responding to you at like 5 a.m. People are like, what are you doing? They're like, what are you doing up at 5 a.m.? I'm like, what were you doing up at 11? Like, I mean, I'm the type, like if I'm out, I could stay out all night. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm home, I don't like, and if I'm up at 11, it's like I'm shut down. Like I don't want to check text. It's just like, I hate the night. I love the morning. It's amazing. Like I'm like, it's 5 a.m. Let's go.
Yeah,
let's go. We got to do work now. Come on.
Got to beat the sun. And I love how quiet it is in that first moment with your coffee and just kind of easing into the day and just
before it's light out
when
it's still dark out. You're like, this is amazing. And then everyone's waking up at 9 and I'm like, oh honey, like let me tell you all the things I've done. But waking up at 7 a.m. I get it. I start to freak out. I'm like, oh.
Well, it's challenging too, because like, if you don't build the structure into your day, I mean, it's all on you. No one's going to be like, hey, you didn't do your podcast today necessarily. So, you got to but if you have a full-time job, you have to filter that in too and make sure that you have the time, but everyone has the same amount of time. I think it's just, you got to get it in the morning. That's my thing. I tell everyone that. If you're like, I just can't get up that early. And I'm like, you got to build a routine.
People are like, how do you go to the gym at like the crack of dawn? I'm like, it is truly the lesser of every evil. Like after work is work. Like, it's just, there's no other choice. Like, this is the only time. It's awful, but you just somehow go half asleep with your coffee and you just, by the time you're done, you're like, okay.
Well, you get re-energized when you do it that way too. So you start your day off that way and you get it out of the way.
Totally. That's why I do it. So stick with it. Stick with it. That's my advice.
Well, next time I'm in New York, we'll have to meet up for a cocktail.
Definitely. Do you come here a lot?
I haven't come as much as I wanted to during the pandemic, but I think now the way things are, I think I'm pretty much ready to start traveling. Like I want to fly out to meet up with Tiffany Moon in Dallas because, I just want to see if I can have a conversation with her, and she was open to it, and she's really sweet and cool. So I'm kind of open to domestically, flying places. I don't think I'm ready to internationally do it.
I'm the same way. Like I've flown, like I went to Orange County to see like Jesus Jugs and Lynn Curtin, like way back. I am such a traveler outside of the US, and like, I'm not sure I'm ready either. Like, it's too complicated. Like I can't keep up with like, how many days do I have to it's like, why am I doing this? And the places I want to go are not like Europe. Like it's just, they're very complicated. And I'm like, I don't have the energy, and things change by the hour. So it's like, whatever plans you have to travel, you're like, by the time you're supposed to go, the rules could be totally changed. And I'm like, why? This is no longer fun.
There because you get it and you can't come back until you're clear of it, and you've messed your whole schedule up now because you just wanted to take this trip and risk it. Because to your point, things change so drastically with all these variants that keep coming at us. But
domestic, yeah. Well, I mean, the next time you're in New York, but I mean, if I'm down there too.
Totally. Yeah, we should absolutely.
You're like right in DC?
So we used to live right in DC. We owned a condo there on 14th Street.
I don't know DC that well, but now you guys are.
It's like kind of like just right in the middle of everything, because DC's not that big in the scheme of things. But
you guys are outside now.
We moved right outside because we wanted an actual house. So I have like my own studio now up here. There's like enough space for us to because we were used to living in obviously compact spaces, and we were fine with it. We started off in a studio. Almost 10 years later, we finally got space. And we haven't killed each other throughout the pandemic. So it's been a blessing.
That's always good.
Yeah. But we're literally 5 minutes driving into the city. And we're only 10 minutes from our old condo, which is oddly strange because it doesn't feel that way. Because we're
it's like you live in Jersey City or Brooklyn.
It's kind of like that. Actually, it's we're just right over the bridge.
That's not bad.
No. So it's nice, and we live in an art district, so it's like it's got a lot of history here. So it's like
I
got a lot
like
of
that.
culture. So it's nice, and it's been a good experience. But it's been nice that I've been able to have my own space to do it, because it's hard to do stuff in small spaces when you live with someone too, because you got to be cognizant. Are you like going to be here? Can you like leave?
Can you be
Now we have
quiet?
space. Yeah, just so. But
I love it.
are
Well,
you
if you're
doing?
here or I'm there for real.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. We'll definitely link up for sure.
And if everyone wants to listen to my podcast, I always tell people, I'm like, if I've annoyed you here today, you could still listen, because it's not about me on my show. You know how it is. It's all about the guest,
Totally.
5 days a week, not just Bravo, lots of other reality shows, but mostly Bravo and Housewives. They could listen at Behind the Velvet Rope, anywhere podcasts are found, Behind the Velvet Rope. Or if you want to follow me on Instagram at Behind Velvet Rope. There's no
And then you
dog.
have a Patreon too, right? That you put bonus episodes out.
Patreon bonus shows. And that is where, because I don't really talk on my main show, Patreon is where I spill the tea of like, let me tell you what I really know about what's going on. And yeah, you got to pay for that. Because I mean, also, I don't really want all that out there to the world. It's like, if you pay, you come here. I don't really want to be like gossiping. I'm really not a gossip per se.
I think gossiping is when you're just regurgitating stuff around. I think it's different when you have actual information,
right.
perceived as gossip, but it's not because of the way in the context of how you communicate it. It's weird. So I think it's great that you do it that way, because some stuff you don't want blasted, because people, they'll spread it like wildfire before.
And it's like, there's all these podcasts that are like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're just kind of saying something. And I don't know who's listening to you and believing this, but you don't know. You don't know Vicky. You don't know Luann. You don't know Teresa. So it's like, you're just making shit up. So if people are hanging on that in every word, I personally have no interest in that, or listening to something like that, because you're listening to someone who just literally does not know. So your guess is as good as theirs. They could brand it. They could brand it as.
That's why I don't like when there's content creators that are so firm in what they're saying as if it is fact. See, like, that's why, like, for me, I just like talking about it. So for me, it's like, what do you think? Or do you think it's this? Or I could see it being that way, but it's never like, no, absolutely, this is 1000% what Luann did. This is what she said, even though we don't know that for a fact, but I'm telling you, that's what she did.
There are so many content creators. And
I'm
like,
how do you do this?
And I'm the opposite. Like, everyone like will text me and be like, don't repeat this. And I'm like, no. So it's like, I do hear everything directly from the source. And I'm just like, if it doesn't happen on my show, I'm not going to talk about it. Like, that's why I'm able to kind of hear all of this, and then like on Patreon, I'll give you little bits of something, but nothing major. Like, where it's like, oh, this one hates that one. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm not in the middle of this. So like, you could tell me that you hate this person and I'll see them tomorrow. I'm not going to repeat it. So it's like, I don't know. I just am like, why would I repeat this? And that to me then seems thirsty. That's thirsty
why I
to
think
me.
Some things are just not necessary to spill. Like, I think you cross to a limit. Like, so like, I met Camille Grammer after season 1 of Beverly Hills, and we stayed friends through that period. But there was things that she would tell me that were not things I would go and share, like Housewives tea, if you will. Totally. It was more like she felt comfortable to share something personal that was really going on just in normal life. But maybe to somebody else, they would have been like, ooh, and it's like, but it's really personal stuff that she felt comfortable to share. So it's like, those are the lines where you have to decipher, like, okay, well, this is not something that everyone needs to know. There's limits. I believe that, at least. I mean, I get it. They're on reality TV and they put themselves out there, but that doesn't mean everything is open for grabs.
And then you hear things and you're like, okay, well, now I'm like, I think you just learn, like, you say, can I trust you? And you're like, yeah, but I think people don't believe me. And then I think over a few weeks, they're like, okay, I get it. I'm like, listen, I am so busy with what is happening on my show and all the drama, like with Joe and like Paris. And I'm like, I don't need to repeat anything you tell me. Like you can say it on my show if you want to come on, but if you don't, then I don't need to repeat this. Like I have enough going on my show of people that are causing drama. So
no, I think that's a great approach to it because it's letting them tell the story versus you doing it for them. So, well,
which is how I like
so
it.
your Patreon, how many bonus episodes do you do?
One every Saturday. So depending
wow.
upon the level you are at. Yeah. So I'm really doing 6 shows a week.
When do you
So-
like you must go to bed at 8:00?
I mean, nothing would make me happier than to go to bed at 8:00. Are there days where I go to bed at 8:00? Yes, from pure physical exhaustion. Go to bed more like 10, 9:30. But so like, for instance, on my Patreon, like this week and next week, like I'm doing a best of and a worst of. So like, and that's not just the interviews, it's like behind the scenes. So like when I do the worst of 2021, it's literally me taking every interview I've done with a Bravo, it's just Bravo, like with a Bravo person for 2021 and being like, number 10 to number 1, these are the worst interviews of the year. And not just on the air, like here's why, because this is what happened off the air. Like this person did this to me. And then I'm like so it's like, that's the stuff I do on Patreon.
So
see, you're all excited. And same thing
way to call it behind the velvet rope because
and same thing with best of, like, you know, like like today it's like the best of, like it was a 2-part episode last week and this week, but I just announced like my favorite interview of the year. But like why was this the best? So it's a little bit of what happened on air, but it's a lot of like off air. This is what happens.
All right. Well,
and you know what? People love this best of, but it doesn't matter. Everyone's like, we just want to get to next week because you guys are so shady. Everyone's just like, I just want to hear the worst of the year. And I'm like, oh, the worst of the year. We got some Summer House in there. we got some Salt Lake is in there.
Okay.
We got $1 Million Listing. Like this is a very broad list of, we have Miami Housewives in there. So it's like the worst of, and I'm like, here are all the reasons why these are the worst interviews of the year.
Amazing.
Listen, if you misbehave when you're dealing with me before or after the interview, like that's what I talk about on Patreon. Like if you're going to keep me up and like, I need you to edit out this word. And first of all, I will do what I want. Like you better ask nicely if you think you want an edit.
Do you get a lot of that, by the way?
No, but no, not a lot. I've gotten it. And then it's like, but I have to tell you, every time I get it, just because at this point, I know what's going to hit and what's going to go viral in the press. I don't know how these people are on TV for like 10, 15 years. Every time someone wants something out, it's never, you're like, sure, I'll take that out. Cause it's never, you're like, I know what's going to be that viral headline. It's never what they want out. I'm like, how could you be on the show for 10 years and not understand what hits? Like, do you know what I mean? Whatever they want out, I'm like, you know what? Is that going to make you happy and want to come back? Great. I'll take that out. Cause it's never the real bomb that is going to explode. Never.
That's wild. How would they not realize that?
I have no idea. It's always the most, and you just feel like saying to someone like, get over yourself. Nobody cares about this with you. Like, it's so strange.
It's
and
like
then
your own personal nuance, like things more than it is what the actual issue could be.
I don't get that a lot. But I get a lot of housewives that don't like each other. Like when I'll have someone on and then like 5 weeks later, I'll have like their enemy or the person they don't like. And they're like, well, why did you like, I'll get things like that about other interviews. I'm like, all you housewives are listening to my show. They're like, well, why did you ask this? And I'm just like, I'm doing my job. Like, that's where it's like, I won't come after you, but it's like, just because you're my friend, if I'm interviewing someone that you don't like and everyone knows that, of course I have to ask about you. Like, it's just, one thing has nothing to do with the other. Like, get over it. It's like work is work and personal is personal.
Well, and also it's like you're on a show and
right,
you're also working. So
well, that's just what I say. I'm like, why does everyone get to fucking eat except me? Like, you wouldn't
just blow smoke up your ass the whole interview and then not ask any questions. Like,
right. And like, you wouldn't call Andy Cohen. You wouldn't call, Entertainment Tonight. Like, you just, I'm nice and you were friends and you know me. So you can call me and text me and ask me, no, like this isn't how it works. Like pretend this is Watch What Happens. Would you call them and ask them for an edit? No. So I don't get a lot of it. But when I do, it's like, you better tread lightly and you better ask nicely and you better like once, like you use your one.
Don't make this a thing.
Cause I mean, if you're just like demanding, I'll just be like, I'll go off.
Well, because then it's like we're trying to craft a narrative now.
Right.
We're splicing and dicing, and that's not
Right.
the point of the conversation.
You
right?
said it in real time and you meant it and it's not coming out, right?
And it's so what do you want us to do exactly?
Totally.
Like, flub it up. So what are you doing this evening? Do you have any plans? Are you going out? Are you staying in? We have a snowstorm apparently coming our way tomorrow.
We apparently have a snowstorm coming our way. I believe that I am, for many reasons. First of all, I'm going to work today all day. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I'm sure it's the same in DC. It is like negative 100 degrees.
I'm not going outside.
I am in an apartment in a nice doorman building and I'm freezing in my apartment. So it's like the heat is on, but it is so cold out.
It's cold. Well, I'm always cold.
I am always cold. Always.
I always feel like I'm never at the right temperature. So that's whatever. But today it is shockingly cold that I don't even need to go outside. So I'm just doing stuff all day that I need to get done for the podcast. But honestly, like that's why I'm not going out to see Sonia tonight. Just I can't drum it up. I don't think
it's going to be, and the way you described it is exactly how these things go. Like, I don't know if people were promised a picture or what, but yes, there's going to be people buzzing and she'll be in the roped off area and everyone's going to pretend and people are going to want a picture. And it's like, that just sounds like a horrible way to spend a night, right?
Well, it's just a bunch of people that just want a picture for the gram.
Stupid.
No one cares really, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's too juvenile for me at this point, I think, in my stage of life.
I don't go to any of that stuff unless, like you're invited, because then it's like, it's just kind of to like me, it's like
groupie or something. I don't know. It's like weird.
I want to interview you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, if it's a different thing, it's like media, journalist, talent, like, short of that, it's like a weird relationship and like, I don't need it. I mean, let me tell you, it's harder to interview people on my show that I'm friends with and that I know. It's just like, it takes longer to lock them in. They're like, of course I'm going to do your show. I'm like, sweetie, we're in week 7 of your season. Like when? Like, this isn't like this is real. Like this, let's make it formal. So it's like, I don't need to be friends or like see all these people. It's just like, let's just come on the show and do the work,
Totally.
But I have no interest in leaving my house today either. And I'm not so sure I have any interest in leaving my house tomorrow either.
Do you have groceries? Do you have your milk and bread?
I've got it all.
Important essentials.
I've got it all. It's like, I have so much work to do. And like, you never know, but like, it's quiet in New York. Like people are staying in. The streets are really quiet.
I'm surprised I haven't even heard a fire truck go off. Like usually it's like when I lived there, it was like there was always fire trucks.
Okay, well, you're lucky because normally 900 times during this podcast that I do, I have to. The other day I was on the phone with them. I was doing an episode with the Miami Housewife coming up, and I was like, I have to just point out that yes, I live in New York, and yes, you can hear those sirens. Like, I'm in a nice building. Like I hear sirens on my show all day. And I never did before COVID. It's only like in the past 2 years, I hear fire trucks and sirens all the time. So the fact that you haven't heard one is a rare exception.
So it is a quiet day then in New York. People are really laying low.
I took a picture of outside my window the other day and sent it to my friend. And she's like, there's no way that what time was that taken? I'm like, oh, like at 11 o'clock. She's like, there's not one person on the street. And I'm like, I know. It's like, it's quiet here.
So insane. Well, first off, what I'm going to say is I really want to say thank you for coming on again.
Anytime.
And before I let you go, I just want your advice. What is your best approach on nailing a housewife interview?
It's almost like what you don't know works in your favor, if that makes any sense. Like, now that I've had everybody on my show, I was innocent in the beginning and I just DM'd people, which it sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
that's not a bad way to start. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like, it depends. Like, it's hard. Like, I mean, I've had every type of interview. I've had unadulterated, yes, and I'm coming on and we'll talk for 3 hours, like Carol Raswell. There's still a third part to Carol Raswell's interview that I have to put out that everyone's asking me for. Then I'll have like when people are currently on the show, it depends. Like the network is involved often, manager, even in the past. Like, so it's like when someone's just like, yes, I'm going to come on, great. But I've done every type of interview where I'm interviewing and it's like, no, there's 17 people listening to this chat right now. You'll never know. But on the Zoom, silence, not hit. Like, so I think, so now that I know all of that and how it works, I'm like, man, I can't believe I just reached out to people via DM in the beginning. And it works. A lot of people will do it that way. So I feel just go down the list and just like, if someone doesn't get back to you, follow up and then just try to like slowly lock people in. And I think it's a snowball effect of like, well, wait, you're not getting back to me, but like I had Countess Luann on. I mean, listen, it's all about, I mean, Hollywood's the same way because I do all these non-housewife interviews. It's just like a name game. And like, let's face it, there is a hierarchy of housewives. No matter what you say.
Totally.
So Countess Luann is way up there compared to a Marisol, a Tiffany Moon. No offense to them. That's just a reality. So I think once the train is moving and you're like, I had Luann and Ramona and Teresa and like the bigger the names, it's like, it does help. It does.
Sure. Well, I'm still, like I said, I'm still like, I'm freshman here and, you know, so I'm fine with that. And I enjoy all the ladies in general, but I totally agree with you. Like there's a hierarchy and I can see how that works in your benefit. The higher you go in the tier of who you're talking to.
People do respond to their DMs, not everybody, but I think a lot of the housewives, like it really is them. They will read it. They will DM you back. So that is like in the beginning, really all you should be doing. Like people answer their DMs.
Do you think if they have some of them have an email for like inquiries, do you go that route?
I like to do both. I'm one of those, like if I have 3 ways to reach out to you, it's not like I'll reach out every 30 seconds, but in that initial reach out, I will do everything. I will do the email and the DM at the same time. That's me. Cause I'm like, I don't know what you're going to see first.
Smart. Okay.
I like that. And then if you get back with one method, I'm like, oh, you do check your DMs or you do check your email. I like doing both. I do. Because you never know. Like, look, there's plenty of DMs that just go unseen.
That's true.
Right?
A lot of times they don't see them. Sometimes they might see the email first and vice versa.
I think you do both.
All right. I'm going to write that down.
That worked for me. And like, I might even reference it and say like, you know, I see your emails on here. I'm going to send you an email. And then in the email say, I'll send you a DM as well. Just so like, they don't think you're like, I mean, but I don't even know if they get that detail, but that's worked for me. I've gotten people from DMs and from emails. I think that's all you need to do in the beginning. Like Tiffany, she checks, right? Like Marisol, like these people check, you know, do I think Luann is really Luann on her social? No, not really. But like there's exceptions, but most of them, it's really them in their DMs themselves.
Okay.
I mean, the Countess, of course, is a different story.
That's different.
But the majority, you know, like, no, I don't think Lisa Rinna is going to DM you back. I don't think Lisa Rinna is going to come on your show, but Lisa Rinna is not going to come on my show. Like, you know, there's just people that aren't going to do it, but the majority will. I mean, Jen Shaw's not doing interviews at the moment. It either is Erica, like news shocker, you know, like, so, but most of them check their DMs.
Well,
I think Beverly Hills is probably the hardest. And I think New York is a close second for current housewives. But short of that, I think everyone kind of checks their stuff. I mean, it's the typical LA, New York. It's the toughest. But ex-New York housewives are not hard. And ex-Beverly Hills are not really hard either. Harder.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm forming my list today because I'm kind of looking at housewives that are also no longer on the show, trying to like build out like kind of a strategy map for. I
mean, those are better interviews per se because they really don't care.
Spill all the like behind the scenes stuff that was going on that they weren't allowed to talk about. So it's always interesting.
And I mean, I hate to say it, like Like if Housewives ended, I would be okay, because they're humble. They're just not all of them, but most of them have come around to being normal again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the ego isn't there, and it's more like when they're talking to you, it's like equals.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I just feel that now because my show has grown so much. But even in the beginning, it's like when someone's on the show, it's like, oh, honey, you're not Madonna. Like, get over yourself. And I have to say, like, the real celebrities I've had on, like, I've had on Fran Drescher and Susan Lucci, and like, real celebrities are on the whole nicer than I feel the Housewives are some of the, like, as just a whole, the most difficult at times to deal with the diva attitude. Like, I mean, Susan Lucci is a soap legend, and like, she should have an attitude like the nicest. So it's like, I feel like Nick Lachey and 98 Degrees were on my show. It's like, I mean, none of these people are easy to get, but like when they're there with you, it's like less of a diva attitude. But I feel like ex-Housewives, there's a humility there that wasn't there when I tried to deal with them when they were on the show.
No, I could totally see that. I mean, one person that like I really want to get on is Taylor Armstrong, because I would love to see where she's at in her life and how the show shaped that and what it's done for her.
Taylor's a good one. I like Taylor.
I met her once when she was coming to the Ivy, when she had just written her
And you
book.
never lived in LA, or you lived in LA?
No, we never lived in LA.
Between that and
there,
Camille, you met a lot of the Beverly Hills Housewives.
It was random. They both were there. They both came. It was in the same time frame too. It was just so strange. But it was right when Beverly Hills had become a thing, and people were like so in love with season 1, and so people were just like getting on board with it. So it was just like, I don't know. I always remember those times as being like the best time. It was like right at the beginning of Beverly Hills.
Camille is hard. Like I mean, Camille has a team, and like she's tweeted back, but like Camille is hard. Like I've reached out, like her team, like it never happens, which like it will one day. She's not impossible. She's not like LVP is much more difficult to get on than Camille. I feel like Camille will happen one day.
Absolutely. I mean, she's just one of those people that's, if she's in the moment and she catches it, she'll respond, she'll make it happen. But
to me, it's like
down here, it was like someone would just email you, and then that's how you knew where, like, she kind of just gives the details. It's all organized. You can tell someone is managing her time, and it's not necessarily her all the time. That's maybe in her messages.
I always feel with Camille, it's like, why not do podcasts? Like, you certainly don't not want to talk about this. I mean, you comment online on Twitter all the time. So it's like, it's not like, look, there are housewives that just don't want to talk about it.
Totally. And I mean, for her, I think she's also got tired of being used recently with production, because it's like same thing with Brandy. They get pulled in when they need something to happen. And then these people end up not getting their diamond. And I think Brandy and Camille were ready for a diamond when they were being, put back on.
Except Brandy needs the money, so she'll never say no.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Like that's just, whereas Camille, I think, is like, I don't need your pittance.
No, she's fine financially, so it's not that serious for her. But I do think she likes being on the show at some capacity, whether it is friend of or full time. I think she gets a kick out of it mostly. That's what I like about her. She seems like she's super fun. She's down to earth. Her husband's sweet as pie, but because she would come down here to do her end women's cancer walk, and we would all do the walk with her. And her husband was super great. So she was a straight shooter.
She's a good one.
Stuff about how like the current season was going, and was just kind of like, it's a job. You just have to go with the flow of what's happening. And that's TV, it's entertainment too. You have to keep that in mind. People forget that. They're like, what, she's like, you have to put on, you have to react, you have to do stuff.
That's what makes a good housewife. She gets the assignment.
Totally. She got it from day one.
She's a good one.
Now I need to go watch season 1.
I know. I'm so nostalgic. Like between her and Taylor, like
I miss them. I hope
Taylor's a good one.
Wonder if they
she's on Girls Trip, so
that's why I'm hoping I just would be interested to see how she is now, like see what that dynamic's like. But I am going to let you go on because I know you're busy the rest of your day. I really appreciate your time. You gave me more than an hour. And
let me know when this comes out. Tag me. I'll
Totally
repost.
will.
I'll make the
Totally
rounds
will.
for you. But really, when you guys are in New York or when I'm down there, we'll do drinks for real.
Absolutely. All right, David, thank you so much. And everybody go check Behind the Velvet Rope out everywhere you listen to podcasts. Also, don't forget to check out the Patreon for Behind the Velvet Rope. There's a new episode on there every Saturday, David.
Every Saturday.
And that's where you're going to get the tea, you guys. He's not going to spill it on the regular podcast. He's going to reserve that for that. So you need to subscribe to the Patreon if you want to get into all of that. All right, David, I'm going to let you know when this comes out, and I will talk to you very, very soon.
Talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys and gals. This was Georgia Says. See you next time.